Hello and welcome back to the all new, all different number one comics podcast. This is a bonus episode. We got me, Dan, on the line. We got Nick. Nick, what the hell's happening? How are you?
I'm doing great. Just peachy. We were just talking about being super tired because we might fall asleep during this episode, but bear with us.
I know, man. If I go into a yawn break, I told you I'm gonna and I forgot we're like video recording too, so I'm gonna take over. Yeah, it's I don't know, gloomy Saturday or something. I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods. It's actually like bright and
Is it
sunny
gloomy
here.
over there?
No, but
Oh, yeah,
but
I got the beanie on. It's
yeah,
kind of cold
exactly.
over here. It's weird.
Yeah, it's fall now, so I don't know, whatever. It's
Oh,
cool. Yeah,
I,
yeah, it
I
just turned fall. But
it should always be sunny where I'm from. So whenever it's cold,
likewise,
I'm
yeah.
like, what the heck is going on? You know, because
No, I hear you.
we're on opposite sides of the same spectrum of the United
Exactly. Yeah,
States.
we're in that
So,
tropical like climate or subtropical or whatever it's supposed to be called. But yeah, it's
yeah.
like it's always supposed to be like I don't know, the coldest it's supposed to get is like 75 degrees, right? Like
Yep.
never any colder than that. So
Yep.
especially not in fall, but
Yeah, and it
yeah,
was
it's
raining yesterday, and I was like, "What the heck is happening? I have no
yeah,
idea what's going on."
man, that's climate change for you, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, fun stuff either way. But yeah, welcome to the Tired Cast, and yeah, we're gonna talk about Black Sight #1 today, which is a Comixology original. Is that how it's a Comixology book? It's being put out by Comixology, but I think also there's been quite a few books that were just released through Comixology, like Barnstormers, that now have been like published into actual floppy comics. So I don't know. It's got a chance, I guess. Maybe somebody will put it out at some point, but as for right now, this is a digital comic. So
Right, yeah, and I usually buy all whenever we do these one shot, I keep my floppy list kind of low
yeah,
because of
good,
physical
good
space
call.
needs.
Yeah,
Unlike you, you're the opposite.
yeah. Sadly,
um, but I usually buy my stuff on I get my stuff on a Kindle and then I read it
Mhm.
on there. And I've actually grown to love it a lot in the last year or so. It's just like one of those things where like when you double tap on something and it zooms in, it gives you kind of like an interactive feel too. I've kind of grown to love it. So this is right up my alley on the Comixology portion of it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you. I haven't read a comic this way in a long time, but I remember reading some like whenever I want to say it's probably when that technology for this like kind of first came out. It's been a little while, but I like it a lot too. It's kind of cool. You kind of get spoiled sometimes if you're like reading a comic and on this page, the one that you're like flipped over to or whatever, like whatever's happening, but then like your eye gravitates over this way and you see that something big's about to happen and then you just want to jump over there. Like this kind of like if you're just going straight through the panels and double tapping and everything, like it eliminates that from happening. You have no clue what's coming up next.
Right. And you can, once you're doing that and you're like, I think I flipped a page, you can go back and look at the full thing and it gives you
Yeah.
kind of like the overview of what's going on. That happened in
Mhm.
this book to me, actually, on one of the pages where it actually was better when I zoomed out. I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool way of putting these panels together. Because I was going in between, I was just clicking, and I was like, huh, that's weird, like how they're doing that. And then I zoomed out, I was like, oh, I get it now. It's like
Yeah.
parts of a body. We'll get into that, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we'll get into it. That's for sure. But yeah, nonetheless, an interesting book here. I do want to like read just the quick synopsis. There's like a longer synopsis. I'm not going to go into all that. It kind of goes into stuff that maybe is like a synopsis for the entire thing as opposed to just the first issue. So I'm just going to go into the first issue one. It's just like a sentence here, so nothing big. But from Comixology, it's after a wild night out in Amsterdam, Alex finds herself trapped in a mental institution, accused of a crime she swears she did not commit. So that's basically the solicit or synopsis there for this book. Um, damn, let's well, I guess let's mention the creators really quick, and if we have anything to say about them before we get into the book proper. But written by Stephanie Phillips. Uh, are you a big fan or reader of Stephanie Phillips stuff? Like, is there anything of hers you're like partial to or?
I only knew the stuff that when I saw who was writing it, I just went back and like looked at a couple things, but
Mhm.
I'm unfamiliar with her work.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, she's done a lot. She wrote on Harley Quinn quite a bit, and then I don't know if you've read that. I think it was Boom Studios that did Grimm. Like, it's a current ongoing Grimm. Like deals with like Grim Reaper type of characters. So she's writing on that, She did that like pirate themed book, Amanda Among Ye.
Oh,
If you've read that, yeah, really cool
never
book.
read
And
that.
then yeah, just some different stuff there, like Nuclear Family for Aftershock a couple of years ago, and some different stuff. Aftershock also, The Descent, which was a cool book. But yeah, she's definitely done some stuff. Really experienced comic creator and writer. Connor Boyle, though, I'm not familiar with like any of his stuff really, at least by name. The artist here on this book. So Connor Boyle, he did Hookjaw. Did you read that book, the Titan Comics Hookjaw, like the shark book?
No, I've never read
Dude,
that.
yeah, that's actually a cool book, really cool. But yeah, he illustrated that, so so that was cool. He did some stuff for like Judge Dredd and Heavy Metal, but he doesn't have a lot of credits to his name. But
Oh,
um,
okay.
yeah, just a couple of things here and there, and then we have a separate letterer and editor and everything. But we don't have to get into all of those people. Let's talk about the book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's get into it.
yeah, dude. This is a book. I it's like I don't even know what to say about it because like it almost feels like it's not breaking any new ground or anything. It feels like something I've heard like a billion times before. Is like going to be my first critique of it. Uh, I'm sure it will go some places. I mean, Stephanie Phillips is a pretty seasoned writer and knows what she's doing, but that was like my first initial thought. Like I'm sitting there reading it, I'm like, okay, well, something like it's about to turn some kind of crazy corner, like something insane's about to happen. And then I'm like, oh, well, I mean, she's just basically, this person was murdered that she was with, and she's gonna say she didn't do it, and okay, like big deal. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it goes into some weird stuff. Like, obviously, they're talking about testing or sorry, making her a candidate for something, and then, you go back and think of that panel where she's at the club and she has like a hit of acid on her tongue and everything. So something more sinister is going on than just what's straightforward happening. But yeah,
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you said it's not really breaking any new ground. It the thing that really kind of upset me was that the first few panels grabbed me right
yeah,
away.
oh
It
yeah,
was really intriguing and like grabbed me, and I was like, "Wow!" First of all, let's congratulate Connor Boyle on the amazing
oh
art.
dude, yeah,
We
that
are
art,
so lucky to have gotten so many good um, pieces of art to read within the last 4 or 5 weeks that we've done this. And
yeah,
it does not disappoint. This art is so good. It's like watercolor. There's lots of like bright yellows and blues and the sketchiness of the drawing where it looks like he just sketched it real quick and then he was like, all
yep,
right, next page. And it just looks like a real artist. I love the panels, the movement of it. So like congratulations to Carboyle because this is like phenomenal and it kept me like really intrigued the entire way through.
yeah,
But like you said with the storyline, I was like intrigued, kind of not really intrigued, and at the end I was like, this is just another Department of Truth or something like that. Like it's kind of like we're gonna,
yeah,
but it's not. It's just like nothing could be like Department of Truth, I don't think, but it's kind of like the same kind of government program. Let's
mhm,
make her a candidate, a Manchurian candidate, or whatever they're gonna do with her. And I have a couple other problems with this. We can get into it later.
yeah.
But for the most part, with the storyline, yeah, not breaking any new ground. I enjoyed it for what it was, which is something that I've read before. But
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I know I told you right before we started recording. I had to do the regular feed episode late this week, so me and my co-host Bob like just did the episode right before you and I are recording this. So like mere moments ago, Bob was here and we were recording the actual episode or the regular feed episode. But we did R.L. Stein's Stuff of Nightmares Red Murder one shot, and like I love R.L. Stein. I would pan over here and show you this giant collection of Goosebumps books that I have, but like I'm not going to do all that. But yeah, I love R.L. Stein. I'm really into his stuff. I loved it as a kid. All of that. I loved like Fear Street and everything too.
Mhm.
But the stuff of nightmare stuff, I'm like, dude, I feel like we're just telling a story like in a playground that I'm like really used to. Like there's nothing earth shattering. There's nothing like, what's the point of telling the story? And then I have to remind myself sometimes, like, that's okay sometimes. Especially for somebody like R.L. Stein, like even his Goosebumps stuff, I was really little when I was reading that. So it seemed crazy, but like, there's nothing groundbreaking about any of those stories either. They're just like campy fun or whatever. For the most part, like it's almost like Stephen King, like just get like a quick like little thing that you want to write about and then expand the story about it or whatever. So I I guess like what I'm trying to say is I feel like that's okay. You can tell a story that's not breaking any new ground, and just if you tell it well, that's kind of what's important. But it's like I don't even know if I feel satisfied with the way that the story was told, I guess.
And that's where we get into it, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like this we can have a story that we've heard a million times,
Yep.
but
Mhm.
is the story um gripping? Is
Yeah.
it gonna make me want to pick up the next issue? Is there something at the end that like grabs me and says, you know what, there's something special about the way that she's portraying these characters, the
Mhm.
way that she's telling the story. I want to know more about these government agents. I don't feel that way really at
Yeah.
all. Especially with the government agents. I don't know them. I don't care
Mhm.
about them. The only thing that we learn about this girl is that her mother and her grandmother have passed away,
Yep.
and she likes 50s music. Like that's
Yeah.
pretty much all we know about her. And that kind of like upsets me a little bit because at the beginning, we were getting into like some meat and potatoes with this yellow reminds me of my grandma's house because she used to smoke. And I'm like, man, I can relate to that was my grandma. Like my grandma's house was like
You're
her
mine too.
walls
Yeah.
were yellow straight up,
Uh-huh.
like because she used to smoke in her chair all the time, and I would be in the room, like
Yep.
no, like
Yeah,
no
yeah.
one knew, but back then, like I guess that cigarettes were gonna like kill you over time, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I mean, or it was just
yeah,
kind of put out of their mind enough where they're like, yeah,
right, and
you'll be
that was I was like,
okay.
wow, like I'm getting to know this person a little bit, and then
Yep.
in the next couple pages, we learn nothing. There's
Yeah.
just a club scene where she's with a guy who's trying to take care of her. She says, "Get away from me." For some, I thought that was weird. Kind
Yeah,
of like
yeah, yeah.
he was just
Mhm.
trying to be nice. And then this other girl jumps in who is actually probably a bad person
Mhm.
because we find out when they're talking and they're listening to 50s music that she knows her name. Her name's Alex, I think, right?
Yep. Mhm.
Her name is
Yep.
Alex. So she's like, "How did you know my name?" And all of a sudden it goes into this like really intense like fever dream of like they're having sex and then she's being tied to a thing and being tested on, and
Mhm.
that was
Yeah,
the panel that I
interspliced
was
there.
talking about where it's spliced and it looks
Uh-huh.
better in full page. Well, I was like, oh,
Oh,
that's
okay.
cool because it has like the arms on on each side of the page and then the head on the top and then the legs on the bottom. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that's a good layout. Yeah.
Which like a testament to the art made me like interested, in what was happening. But girl dies. She's being blamed for it. She sees her open up her eyes. We don't know if that's like a drug induced thing that happened or if she actually like it probably wasn't. It probably actually happened. And she probably smiled at her because
Yeah.
I think because if the government agents are like, she's a perfect candidate for what we're doing because she has no family and she's on drugs, then then that's what's going to happen. But at the very least, I wish I knew more about this character, like, or made me care about her empathetically in some way. I don't really
Mhm.
care about her or the government agents or the girl who was tricking her or anything like that. So it's kind of just like a very surface level uh, way of portraying these characters. You know,
Yeah, and that's what I got out of it too. Like I kept thinking, after I read it twice. So after I read it last night, the first time I was like, well, it's such like linear storytelling. It starts off with her, in Amsterdam there, kind of going to the club and everything and kind of recollecting on that, or that's where the story proper starts. Of course, it starts out with, like you said, the yellowing of everything and her telling that and everything. And I was like, okay, cool. I was with you there. Like we were going to get into some weird stuff. And it was almost like, you know, this story would have been cooler if it started off with the murder and then like backtracked a little bit and then told us a little bit about what was going on. Like maybe didn't make it so straightforward or something, left a little bit to the imagination and then let it unfold in that way. But yeah, for it to be like so straightforward and then the only thing that's supposed to hook me here is like I'm supposed to want to know what happens, next month or whatever. Uh, she's being framed for this killing or she's in this government program or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's so hard to care. Like I feel like I've read so many stories like that were told like that.
right? And that the ending is the other problem, but that I had was because I don't, I didn't. the beginning should have been the ending, maybe.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Because I'm looking at the beginning and I'm like, wow, that's like there's a hand coming out of this yellow wall or panels and it's like getting closer to her and she's freaking out. And
Hmm.
I'm like, whoa, like what's going on? Like, is this a monster? Like, is she entering another dimension and they're like getting her into is she on some drug induced thing where they're like testing her with drugs? Or I feel like that should have been at the end because at the end they're just like, well, now I think she's perfect for what we're gonna do with her. And I'm like,
Hmm.
well, we saw in the beginning what's gonna like why do I need to keep, you know what I mean? Why do I
Yeah.
need to keep
Yeah.
reading if I know that you're just gonna be messing with her for the next 2 or 3 issues or whatever? Like it already lays out the whole plot, you know, it lays out what they're gonna do. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I feel like I already know what's happening here. I feel like I already know exactly what's going on, and that's not how I want to feel, with a comic book. Like I want to be a little bit intrigued with the story and the writing, the storytelling, and all of that. And it's weird because, like I said, Stephanie Phillips, typically when I think back to her stuff, her writing in Harley Quinn, her writing on Grimm, even something like Nuclear Family, like she's a really good storyteller. Stephanie Phillips knows how to tell a story for sure. So I don't know if this was just more of like a half baked idea or what, but I mean maybe we'll be super surprised after. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'll definitely check out the next issue, see what's going on, and if the second issue is as promising as the first couple parts of this issue, and it gets into, which would just be like I think bad kind of storytelling, not leaving
yeah.
us with something to hook us on to. If it
Hmm.
starts out with something like gripping, I would have been like, wow, why didn't they put that at the end? I would have totally wanted to pick up the second issue more, you know.
Yeah.
But we read this first issue. There is a second part of this
Yeah, I was gonna talk about
called
that backup, definitely.
called
Yeah.
Glickman, and
Hmm.
I actually liked it more.
Yeah.
Weirdly, it's shorter. It gets to the point.
Hmm.
It's I love the drawing
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
the art.
Art's really good. Yeah. Yeah.
Really like the art and the drawing. It's all black and white.
Hmm.
Tells the story of a man. Uh I didn't read it twice. I only read the first one twice, but
Hmm.
it's the story of a man who's an artist. He wants to be an artist and he goes to these people in this cafe and they start making fun of him because he wants to be an artist or whatever, or
Hmm.
like he's at a bar or whatever. And then these people turn into like demons and he's seeing things and he's like, I don't
Yeah.
know what's
Uh-huh.
going on. So I did the only thing I knew how to do and I ran. And
Yep.
I was like,
Hmm.
oh, like that was cool. Like what a cool little short story, you know? And
Yeah. I
I
liked
hope
it
that
too.
continues on, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will. I don't see why they wouldn't continue that. It was interesting too because they interjected like I mean we didn't hear any of the political conversation, but of course it was told there that they were talking politics, and that's kind of why it went south. He was basically for a different party or whatever, a different belief system than the people talking were, and they kind of uh, ran him out of the conversation or whatever. And then one of them tried to bring him back in, but took him to a bar and was like, well, let me buy you a drink and whatever. But then he makes the point to say, let's not bother the bartender. I'll make the drink for you. And that's whenever,
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
I totally forgot about that. So
Mhm.
he drugged him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So
So
yeah, so
another
we're
thing.
going to be a common theme here. People are drugged or whatever, I guess. But which is something to juxtapose against that other story, the story proper. I was a little confused about the acid part that was in the first story. Like, of
Me
course,
too.
Alex was talking about, how she's like good and doesn't do drugs, occasionally smokes or whatever. I was assuming she was talking about weed, uh, but as she's telling that, it zooms into the shot of her with a hit of acid on her tongue, and I'm like, okay, was that supposed to be? Was she drugged? Did she know she
Yep.
was taking acid? Like,
Yep.
I don't understand what's
And then
happening.
so then when you write something convoluted like that, it makes me feel dumb because I'm like, did I miss something
I
or
know. Yeah.
did was okay, so was she lying in the first part? And if she was, why was she lying?
Yep.
Was she drugged? And if she was drugged, why didn't we see her getting drugged?
Hmm.
I which just makes me like I feel dumb. You know what I mean? I shouldn't
Yeah.
have to feel dumb reading like, but like explain everything to me like like I said this before, I think in the first or second episode we did. Explain
Mhm.
everything to me like I have no idea what's going on, please.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to make it super interesting and make me want more and it's going to be explained later, don't make it Lost like the show.
yeah.
Don't make me feel lost. like
Yep.
especially if you're trying to get me to read the next issue, because you got to keep me like, well, like if I don't know what's happening, if I don't know why she's lying, if I don't know her motivations, I don't want to keep reading because I feel dumb. I feel like I'm not in on the joke or something, or in on the story.
Yeah, I've had plenty of comics that I've read where I'm with you. Like I sit there and think like this is over my head for some reason, or is it? Or am I missing something? Or is it written bad? Like what is happening? And that's always my first thought is and kind of the reason that we even do this podcast. Like should I go read the second issue? Like a lot of times, like I want to ask myself that should I even go read that second issue? Am I going to feel the same way? I'm going to feel stupider after reading it, and I don't want to. Obviously, it should be explained. I feel like that's the writer's job, to hook us in and to explain things to us, and then obviously tell a compelling story. That's a really important part of it too. But yeah, you have to get past that initial kind of hook me in and make me feel like I understand enough of this world, what's going on, make it intriguing enough for me to like want to learn more about it.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. But if I were to say like, will I be reading the second issue? If I were to read the second issue and it does the same thing it does in the first issue, I think that's when I would stop
Yeah.
with this. I will give it another issue, but I'm iffy on it. And
Yeah.
if it doesn't, this is usually how I do comics anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Like the story was a little underwhelming. I'm gonna give it another shot because we owe it to people to like, try and like get us hooked on stuff. So I'm gonna give it one more shot. I think with the second issue, and then if that
Mhm.
doesn't work out, I'll probably just like, I tried.
Yeah. And I'm with you. Like I wasn't hooked like with this first issue at all. It's not, something I would go recommend like to people or anything. But the caveat to that is I have a lot of faith in Stephanie Phillips. Like she's not let me down on anything else at all. So I'm just hoping, maybe there was like some misdirection or whatever. And then, issue number two just really ramps up. And then I'm like, oh shit, now I see what you were trying to say here with that. It's just unrealized to me because I haven't gone that far in it yet.
Right. Yeah. And it doesn't bode well for the writer, but it also doesn't bode well for it being a Comixology original,
Yeah.
because I'm like, if you're trying to get me like to read more Comixology originals, or like, when they started making like Netflix originals and stuff like that,
Mhm.
if they were
Yep.
all crap, I'd be like, well, this is a Netflix original, I'm not going to click on it.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah, and I agree with you. I know trying to pump out like a free first issue or whatever of something to try to get people to try your platform or something. I don't know. I think you need something like the call or something in there. Something that's just people read and they're like, holy shit! Dude, anything they put out, I'm going to subscribe to now because that was so amazing. Like they should be doing stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, again, maybe we just don't realize, maybe what's going to be in that second issue or what's going to wrap it up or whatever. So maybe it'll be some really good stuff. And like you said, there definitely was something there at the beginning. So maybe that will continue over, and then also that backup. I'm with you. I loved that backup. It was so fun. It was so cool, and I'm hoping we like see a little bit more of that. Maybe that second issue or that second backup opens with him running and them chasing him, and whatever's going on. But yeah, some cool ideas there.
Yeah, I agree. I'll give it another shot. I don't know if I would recommend it to anybody to pick up the second issue.
Yep.
If you have never read anything like Department of Truth or anything with like a government candidate, and you want to like get into that type of stuff, go for it. Like, but I think I've just been too versed in the way of reading stuff like this, and I'm just like, well, it
Mhm.
didn't really like hit the spot like these other ones did, and that's to my detriment, because when you write a story like that and it's good, I love it. When you don't, I'm like, I know what you're doing. I'm not gonna be surprised when this ends, and I know exactly what's gonna happen. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
recommend that. But can you recommend me something from Stephanie Phillips that I might like?
I would definitely say check out Grimm. It's ongoing right now. It's from Boom. It's really, really cool. it's got to do with like this Grim Reaper. It's a cool book. Really interesting, really cool art in there. I would definitely check that out. I really liked Nuclear Family. I again, I think that was Aftershock. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was a 5-part mini, if I'm correct. But yeah, Stephanie Phillips has done some really cool stuff. If you read Harley Quinn, I don't know. I've gone in and out of reading Harley Quinn stuff. I'm not like uh, super into it, but sometimes there's compelling stories there. But Stephanie Phillips has done some cool Harley Quinn stuff. So yeah, there's definitely quite a bit to choose from Stephanie Phillips, and once you do break into some of Stephanie Phillips' work, you'll be like, okay, Stephanie Phillips knows what she's talking about. Like she knows how to tell a story. So
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely be checking out Grim.
yeah,
We'll talk
Grim,
about it
very
next time.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, I think that's it. I think we kind of answered the question. We checked out this book. We're kind of lukewarm on it, but we're both going to stick around for issue number 2 and see what happens at the very least. Again, I've got that faith in Stephanie Phillips there. But yeah, man, I think that's it. I appreciate you talking to me about this book and suggesting it. It was definitely interesting to talk about. And yeah.
Always a pleasure, Dan. Thank you for having me on.